This is it, what? Cohiba lit, what? We got that yak up in the cup and getting bent, what? Put some smoke in the air, this your shit, what? And raise your glasses if everything classic. This is it, what? That Chiba lit, what? You got some drink up in your cup and getting bent, what? So put some smoke in the air, this your shit, what? And raise your glasses if everything classic.
Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. I don't see it happening. Why would you go up north and face Canelo, but you won't face Terrence Crawford in the same weight class as you?
Thank you.
That's a money thing for him. You know, I think that Spence is at a point now, and correct me if I'm wrong, or I think he's just wants to get the money, and then he wants to lead the game. That's it. He has no intentions on fighting Terrence Crawford. And I think that even if Terrence Crawford was to jump ship and to go over there to PBC, I still don't see the fight happening over there. And I stand by that.
You are tuned in to G5Jefftv. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the share button as you come on in. What you just listened to was Tim Bradley talk about the Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford situation. And I'm not gonna lie, it was entertaining to hear Tim Bradley talk about it the way he did, because I feel the same way. I feel the same way. Like I don't think the fight is going to happen. I just don't think the fight is gonna happen. And he said another thing that was key. Even if Terrence Crawford signs up with PBC, it's still not a guarantee that that's gonna happen. And it was funny when Tim Bradley said that. I start cracking up laughing, because I'm in a Facebook group. My guy YSM Sports Media heads that up. Big shout out to Jamil. And I literally said that in the comment section. I was just like, yo, like, Terrence Crawford shouldn't sign with PBC unless Errol Spence's name is actually in the contract, like literally in the contract. And I forgot the guy's name that's in the chat with us. He cool dude though, cool dude, passionate about boxing and everything. You could definitely tell he's like pro PBC, pro Errol Spence, which is cool. You know, he's like, yo, what if Errol Spence would have died in a car accident? Like, what then? And I'm like, well, he didn't. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't. Like, at the end of the day, like, yes, it's not a guarantee that Terrence Crawford is going to get Errol Spence, even if he signs with PBC. Like, Terrence Crawford's sole number one purpose, not the only purpose, but his number one purpose to sign with PBC is to get Errol Spence unification fight for basically all the marbles, welterweight supremacy, biggest pay-per-view that you could put on in 2021 outside of Tyson Fury and AJ. It's the biggest fight you can put on. That would be the number one reason why Terrence Crawford would sign with PBC. And when Tim Bradley was like, it's not a guarantee he'll get it, I agree with him 100%. Al Heyman does not guarantee all his fighters the fights that they want. I know everybody's a big Al Heyman fan. I'm not against Al Heyman. I'm not against Al Heyman at all. Like, Al Heyman takes care of his fighters, but does Al Heyman do what's best for a guy's legacy? No, he does what's best for business. He does what's best for business. He's a businessman. Like, he does what's best for business, period. I can name plenty of fighters in PBC, plenty of fighters, plenty of situations where guys that signed with Al Heyman did not get what they wanted or did not get what they were promised. Gary Russell. There's a couple of fights he was promised under Al Heyman. Couldn't get them. Errol Spence. He's been with Al Heyman from the jump. Let me run this down. This is why I said Tim Bradley is correct when he said, hey, if Terrence Crawford signs with PBC, it's not a guarantee he gets the Spence fight. Spence wanted Keith Thurman when Keith Thurman had the belt. Couldn't get the fight, right? Errol Spence wanted Danny Garcia when Danny Garcia had a belt. couldn't get the fight. Manny Pacquiao was signed with PBC at one point, couldn't get the fight. Even with Kell Brook, when he got the Kell Brook fight, not only did he have to wait for that fight, but he had to go to Kell Brook's backyard to get it. That's not what Errol Spence wanted. So Errol Spence, damn near his whole career, has been matchups that he didn't want. His whole career has been situations that he didn't want. Like, if you think about it, Al Heyman hasn't got him anything that he wanted at the time that he wanted it. He couldn't get Keith Thurman. He couldn't get Danny Garcia. He couldn't get Manny Pacquiao. He couldn't get Kell Brook sooner than he wanted. He had to go on the road to get Kell Brook. So even Errol Spence is a prime example of Al Heyman not giving fighters what they want when they want it. Period. Gary Russell was supposed to have Leo Santa Cruz years ago. Didn't get it. Did not get it. So Tim Bradley is 100% right on that. Now, I will say this. I think Errol Spence is calling out Canelo more than he calls out Terrence Crawford. And he's calling out Canelo for the same reason everybody else calls out Canelo. It's the biggest payday that you're going to get in your life. Period. When Floyd was fighting, it was the same thing. Everybody and their mother was calling out Floyd Mayweather. A guy can make his debut and get a knockout in the first round. He's like, yo, I'm ready for Floyd. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm ready for Floyd. Like, I'm not knocking Errol Spence calling out Canelo because he's no different than anybody else. He wants the cash cow. But when Terrence Crawford was like, he thinks Spence wants a Canelo fight and he's just going to run off into the sunset. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I think even if Errol Spence was to get a Canelo fight, I think he would continue to fight. I definitely see Errol Spence fighting for the next couple of years. If he doesn't fight Terrence Crawford and he doesn't fight Canelo Alvarez, I think he's eventually going to go up to 154. I think he'll go up to 154 before he fights Jerron Boots Ennis or somebody like that, a killer like that. He'll go up to 154 and he'll have some fights at 154. That's the part that I don't agree with Tim Bradley. Everything else, though, spot on with everything else. I don't see the fight happening, period. And the way Tim Bradley said it is exactly how I feel. Like, that's how I sound when I say it. Like, hell no. Like, that fight ain't happening. Hell no. I hope I'm wrong, but hell no. I don't think it's happening. And this is the one thing that I will say about Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford, he needs to sign with PBC. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, G5, you just said all that, and then you turn around and say he needs to sign with PBC? Yes. Terrence Crawford needs to sign with PBC after this Top Rank deal is up. Because despite everything that I said about the whole Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence situation, who should get what, is the fight going to happen, all this and all that, Terrence Crawford has to live life after Top Rank. And as far as I'm concerned, Top Rank does not have many options at 147. They do not have many options at 154. The only way Terrence Crawford will be able to stay with Top Rank and actually get some top level competition is unless he moves down in weight to 140. If he moved down in weight to 140, then he can stay with Top Rank. He could fight Teofimo Lopez and Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez and all those guys at 140. But the older you get, the harder it is to go down in weight. It's actually not even good for you to be going down in weight at an older age. Now, Terrence Crawford is 32. He's a young 32 because he hasn't had any real wars inside of the ring. I mean, the one war that he had was Gamboa, but he got the better of Gamboa in the war. And it wasn't no knockdown drag out either where Terrence Crawford was taking a whole bunch of shots. It was just an action fight. But That's the only scenario where Terrence Crawford can actually get big time fights. He can fight since people was like, oh well, Lomachenko's not a real lightweight. He might go down to 130. But there's a lot of guys at 135 that can move up to 140, and Terrence Crawford can fight. But I don't even think that's realistic. He's been at welterweight for a couple of years now. You can't expect a guy 32, 33 years old to be dropping down in weight. And he's filling out at 147. Like, I can actually see Terrence Crawford at 154 before I can see him dropping down to 140. But it goes back to what I said. I think Terrence Crawford needs to sign with PBC, because anything that's 147 and 154, PBC got it locked. PBC got it locked. Al Heyman got it locked. You know what I'm saying? And if Terrence Crawford wants to get significant fights going forward, he need to go where the work is. He needs to go to the plug. Like, Al Heyman is the plug at 147. He's the plug at 154. So if Terrence Crawford wants to continue his career and have big time fights, maybe his next 4 or 5 fights, then he needs to go to PBC. And those big fights may not include the name Errol Spence. So I don't agree with Tim Bradley all the time, but he was spot on this one. He was spot on this one. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section. G5Jefftv, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Please share this video. Support your boy. Support good content at all times. I appreciate y'all. Peace.